in other languages like C and Fortran and Perl, you can find a variety of different ways to do loops. But in Python, the primary way to do loops is to use for loops. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how for loops work, and then we'll talk about another way to do a loop that does occasionally come up in Python. Okay, so the way loops work is you can do a loop on anything that has an iterator, and an iterator is really simple. It's just something that is a data structure that has a built-in next. So I'm going to set this up. This is not something that you would very rarely ever code this way, but just to illustrate how this works. So I'm going to do this with a string, with a list, the dictionary, and finally with a tuple, and we're setting up iterators for each one of these. So basically what this means is you can do a for loop over a string, a list, dictionary, or a tuple because they do have iterators. And so I've set up these 4 different iterators, and then I'm going to print out the value of what an iterator is. And actually, when you do that, you don't get anything interesting. Let's say, oh, we get an error. Well, let's see. Oh, we got an error because I forgot that at the bottom here, I tried to set up an iterator on an integer, and it turns out that integers themselves do not have iterators. So this is the number 123,521, and so as a number, you can't go through the sequence of digits here. If I make this a string, then I could. Okay, so we set up iterators for the string, list, dictionary, and tuple, and when we print out just the iterator itself, basically what we get back is that we have a string iterator, a list iterator, a dictionary iterator, and a tuple iterator, and then it actually gives us a physical address for those. Not really terribly useful information unless you're doing some pretty hardcore programming. But what you can do is ask for the next item in each one of these. Next item in the string, the next item in the list, the next item in the dictionary, and the tuple. The first time you ask for next, you actually get the first item in each one. So I'm going to get the H for the string, the 1 for the list. It gives you the key, so it's going to give you the 1 for the dictionary, not the value, and the A for the tuple. And so we get the first elements of each one of those. We can ask for the next again for each one of these. And it'll give us the second entry in each one. And we can do that again until, for the dictionary, we actually run out of keys after the third one. So we can run next on the other ones because they're longer than that. If we tried to do a next here in the dictionary, it's going to say, hey, I'm out of room. You can't do that, and throw an error. So this is not something that we are going to use, but trying to show you what's underneath what we're going to do next is that you can do for loops over anything that has an iterator, and strings, lists, and dictionaries and tuples have iterators. Integers, as kind of a counterexample, do not. Okay, so go over to for loops, and notice that I'm setting up again a string, a list, a tuple, and a dictionary. We're going to show how to do for loops over each one of those, and I'm also going to do a simple loop that doesn't involve having to set up a data structure initially at all. So the simplest loop you can do is do for I in range. Range will actually automatically give you the numbers between 1 and 10. It doesn't actually give you the last one, so this is kind of like the string tuple list indexing we saw in the previous video. So this is going to give us a range from 1 to 10. You can put another index in here, and this is going to be how much to jump by. So if I put 3 in here, this would go 1, 4, 7, 10. And we can run that. Oh, I'm running the wrong file. So I want to do the 4 and run that. And go up here. And so we get the 1, 4, 7, 10 for I. And inside this for loop, these are commands you can execute and run inside the for loop, and this is going to do this for every value of I in that range. And so I'm going to get I and I squared for each one of those. And then again, because the string and the list and the tuple and the dictionary have iterators, we can do a for loop over each one of those. So if I do a for loop over the string S, that's going to give me all the letters in that string. Or I should say characters, because I guess a blank is not a letter, but letter, character, whatever. And I can print that out, and if I wanted to, I could convert that to uppercase. So for the string, in hello world, the first letter H already is uppercase, so we get the same thing there. And then we get the lowercase e, the uppercase e, lowercase l, uppercase l, so on. And that goes through all the way through hello world. For the list, we're going to get something pretty similar. I probably could have used a different list than the string, but again, the list has an iterator, so when we do this for loop, it's going to start off at the first element of the list and go through that, and we will print out each letter and print it. Oops, I'm in the wrong thing. That's the string. So we're just going to print out each letter in this case. For the tuple, again, because it has an iterator, you can do a for loop over a tuple, and again, print out the letters. And then with a dictionary, this is important. With a dictionary, when you do a loop, you're looping over the key. So this is what I was saying in the previous example, when we're talking about iterators. The iterator goes over the keys. If you want the values, you have to take that key and plug it into your dictionary. So this first one, well, I say first one, also remember the dictionaries are not ordered. So even though you get a next, you're not guaranteed what the first element or the first thing that you print out is going to be. So I'm going to print a key, and I'm going to plug that key into the dictionary and find the corresponding value. And when we do that, down here under dictionary, so we get 0H, 1E, 2L, 3L, and so on. Again, there's no guarantee that that's what's going to happen. That's going to come out in that order. So for loops in Python are ubiquitous. You pretty much you can use for loops for anything. They're incredibly powerful. We'll use those when we're reading in files and writing out files too, which is different from most other languages. In most other languages, you have to learn a number of different varieties of loops. There is another loop available to us. It's called a while loop. I'm going to give one simple example here of a while loop. There are other things that you might want to do, but it gives you the basic idea what a while loop does. A while loop, you can put any condition in here that you want. So you could have, something like while x greater than 0, y less than 0. Any kind of conditional that you want can be put in here in the while loop, and you can execute it as long as that condition is true. In this case, I've actually have implemented an infinite loop, so this loop would actually go on and on forever. While true, it'll never stop executing unless I break out of it somehow. We're going to input a lollipop flavor, and if that flavor happens to be cherry, then we will stop the loop. This is not a particularly useful example, I suppose. I don't know what one could use this program for, but you can see where there might be cases where you might want to run a loop forever. Simplest case might be a menu command, where you have a menu for people to choose from. They make a choice, they go do some actions, and when they come back, they want to come back to the menu. So you're just going to keep operating that menu, that list of options for them. So if I put an apple here, I just keep getting put anything I want in here, and as long as I put anything besides cherry in there, I'm going to just keep getting more and more questions for lollipop flavor. So if I put in cherry, then I break out of the loop and I get a good choice. So there are options to the for loop, but the reality is if you're running a loop in Python, most of the time it's going to be a for loop. Okay, so quick review of loops in Python.